episode of Vastly Sage here on YouTube. Today I have a very exciting guest. She has been helping enterprises and entrepreneurs build up their businesses and get into supply chains of various corporates. My guest today is Busi Raphekwane. She is the CEO and founder of Transformation Legacy, and I cannot wait to have this conversation with you. Busi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
It's so nice to see you.
It's really good to be here.
Yeah. It's been a while.
It's been a long while.
Last time we chatted, you had just started Transformation Legacy.
Yes.
You were 2 years in.
Yes.
How has that been? How's that going?
It's going very well.
Yes.
I know when I spoke to you previously 4 years ago,
yes,
I was still trying to figure things out, still trying to build up a team,
yes,
trying to find a way to actually, take up my role as the CEO and be more strategic
as
opposed to being operational. So I've made a lot of progress since then.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, you're still at it, so that's a good sign.
Yes.
So we're going to actually come back to this conversation about being strategic versus operations, because I think there's a bit of a misconception that, actually, let me say, a lot of entrepreneurs die and wish for this. I am strategic. I'm a strategic CEO. But the truth is that when you're running your own business, you are as operational as it gets. And you need to pull yourself out of that to start thinking strategically. How did you find that transition?
Sure. It took some time for me to get there. Firstly, I'm really passionate about the work that we do. So I do get tempted to get my hands dirty.
Yes.
But I think at some point I had to really think about, what is the best role I can take up in the organization?
Yes.
And I've got a responsibility to the transformation legacy, which I need to now look after. So I had to take a step out and just think about, if this was like a child, what would I need to do? I can't always, be operational. I won't be able to see all other aspects of the business. So for me, it had to really take me just taking a step back, being honest with myself in terms of what the business needs, and sort of also trying to balance it out. And I think it's still a balance, because I still get my hands dirty. I still, jump in and see, how I can contribute to moving the operations forward. But I'm very mindful of taking the time out to be more strategic so I can see all aspects of the business.
Is this something you teach these entrepreneurs? And we're going to talk a little bit now about what you do. Is this something that is part of the work that you do with entrepreneurs?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big part of it. We actually even have it on a scorecard. So when entrepreneurs join the program, one of the things that we assess is, how long can you step out of your business without your business collapsing?
Oh, right.
And usually it's okay, I can do 2 days maximum. Some is I can't. Because, the business is me.
So the test is, can the business stand on its own 2 feet independent of you?
Exactly. And we assess that quarterly. And we want to see a little bit of progress. And we know that it does take time. But after 12 months, you should be able to at least take a week off. Be able to switch off your phone and the business still running.
And you take them through a plan to get them to that if they're not there.
Exactly.
Okay. Hence Transformation Legacy, I guess. Well, let me first just take a step back. Research shows that 70% of small businesses, in fact, fail in their first 24 months. Yet you left a corporate job and decided to start a business back in 2017, this Transformation Legacy. But in your job, you were doing enterprise development and supply development anyway. So you were at the coalface of businesses failing within 24 months. Yet you decided, I want to do it. What was the driver for this?
For me, it was, I wanted to really create sustainable change. I wanted to have programs that lead to impact in entrepreneurs. I wanted to see more small Black-owned businesses being around in 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. I wanted more longevity for small businesses. And I felt that I needed to create my own organization.
Yes.
So that I can put structures and programs that can lead to sustainability of small businesses. So at the time, yes, I knew, okay, that means I'm going to be an entrepreneur. But I was also like, yeah, I know. I mean, I've been working with entrepreneurs.
This thing can be so difficult.
You know, I can, you know, I'll be able to do this.
Yeah.
So it was, honestly, I was led by passion.
Yeah.
I was led by heart. I was led by what I felt I needed to do to create the change that I wanted to actually see.
Yes. Well, I mean, you've recently also been recognized by Santam for the Women of the Future Awards and Standard Bank Top Women Awards. So clearly you're doing something right. Yeah. What was the personal driver? So outside of the impact that you wanted to have, was there something in your heart that said, actually, I deserve to go get on with this? What was that personal goal? What was that desire? I know I left corporate because I wanted to have a bit more flexibility, be there for my kids and just be present in their lives, whilst of course being driven by, you know, the purpose of creating jobs and making a difference in my country. What was your personal driver?
I think for me, one of the things that always drives me is autonomy.
Oh, yes.
And creating spaces where I can be my true self and I can give in a way that is authentic to me.
Yes.
And creating that type of space for other people who join the space as well.
Yeah.
So for me, that was the real drive. I mean, I could have done it where I was working previously, but I felt that I needed more autonomy.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just create a space where it was authentic.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
So
and it was space for yourself as well.
Yeah.
Like to just, because what I found when I was in a corporate job was I just never had time to think, you know, and it's such an insane thing to think about when you're still in that situation, you don't actually realize how bad it is and how much you need time the space to think. And that for me was a fundamental shift. That now as an entrepreneur, whilst of course we all have struggles as entrepreneurs. In fact, I think being an entrepreneur, you can never ever say you are truly succeeding. Because it's like, do you find it that way as well?
Yes.
Because it's almost like you can succeed for a period and then you dip for a period. So I feel like entrepreneurship is most definitely a lifestyle, a way of life, rather than a destination. And in that way of life, you know, you're having your dips, you're having your ups. Is this some of the things, are these some of the things you teach your entrepreneurs?
Absolutely. And it's really not linear.
Yeah.
And I think for me as well, being an entrepreneur and working with entrepreneurs actually helps because what I go through as an entrepreneur is exactly what the entrepreneurs on our programs go through.
So it's relatable,
it's relatable.
Yeah.
And you know, entrepreneurs will work towards this big goal and then they'll reach it. And then the next day they'll have a crisis and feel like
they're failing.
What is happening? I thought I had this thing, you know, locked down. I knew what I was doing.
Yes.
But like it's actually a journey more than a destination, as you said. Yeah.
And that's why entrepreneurs have to be so mentally strong, mentally tough, because one day you are winning and the next it's gone. You know, it's like, what's happening? And being able to ride those different cycles, I think is the true spice of being an entrepreneur.
Right.
But of course, I think you and I wouldn't trade it for anything, right?
No, I wouldn't. Give me this
anytime.
Any day. But I must say, like, it's taken a lot to get to a stage where I say, give me this any day.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, like you've just said, it's really like you need the mental strength.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship is mental more than anything. And even in the programs that we run, we have like personal mastery, self-development, and entrepreneur mindset as one of the first things that we work on before we even go into the business. Because if you don't have a strong mindset, you're not going to get through it. You can have, the best business model. Yeah. But it needs you, actually. Yeah. It needs you.
Let's say you need a very strong stomach. So whilst we're at that, I think that's a perfect spot to start talking about what Transformation Legacy does. So what is the business of Transformation Legacy? What does that look like every day?
So we are an entrepreneur development company. We provide skills, knowledge, tools, and support to entrepreneurs. And the purpose of giving them those skills is to get entrepreneurs to a stage where they are succeeding, they are growing, and most importantly, they are sustainable. So we are building businesses for long-term existence.
Yes.
And we do that through business mentorship and coaching, through business skills training, and also through business consultancy services that we provide to entrepreneurs. So what that looks like, on a day-to-day basis is really taking entrepreneurs through what I've just mentioned earlier, like entrepreneurship mindset. What type of mindset do you need to have as an entrepreneur? How can you master yourself? How can you manage yourself so that you're more effective as an entrepreneur? And then we move over to things like, marketing. How do you market your business? How do you identify, the relevant market for your product or service? And how do you communicate in such a way that helps you connect with your market? We do things like finance. Finance is a big
one.
It's a big one for entrepreneurs.
Cash flow 101, most importantly.
So just taking them through, what do you need to know? What are the basics in terms of managing your finances? How do you administer your finances so that you know what's happening? You know whether you're making a profit or not making a profit. You know how much money you need to survive on a month-to-month basis and to exist in the long term.
And what are some of those common mistakes that you're finding? Maybe just top 3 common mistakes that you're finding that entrepreneurs make a lot of.
So in terms of finance, a lot of entrepreneurs don't even know what is happening in their finances. They're just happy to see, okay, this is the amount of income that I have. I should be fine. How much do you actually need? What are your monthly operational expenses? A lot of entrepreneurs don't know, what their monthly operational expenses, the average is. So it's like really going through month to month without understanding whether you're going to make it or not make it. And sometimes not even saving just a little bit of money, just so that, if anything had to happen or your clients don't pay on time, you've got a little bit of reserves, to get you by. So we're seeing still that entrepreneurs are struggling with the very basics when it comes to finances.
But why is that? Is it because and you give me another 2, right? Is this because they just they don't know what they're getting themselves into, or they're just being ignorant about it, or they just don't know what to do?
I think in most cases they just don't know what to do, and they get absorbed by passion sometimes, the product or service that they're trying to get out there, whether, getting customers. So those are the things that are mostly priority for most entrepreneurs. What is the product or service? Do my customers like it? Do I have enough customers? And when that is ticked off, finances are the last thing that I'm seeing entrepreneurs focusing on.
So they ignore the business of the business. Because the creating part is amazing, but actually the real business is in the money.
Exactly.
What other mistakes are they making?
The other mistakes that I'm seeing is entrepreneurs are not investing enough time in developing themselves. So whether it's understanding your finances or understanding yourself, for me, it's equally important. So what I'm seeing is it's not even, a thing that a lot of startup entrepreneurs are thinking about. When they start a business, how can I invest in myself actually so that I'm more effective in running this business?
Well, I can see how that can be the last thing on their minds. Imagine you're trying to make money or actually, let's just say you're now really desperate and you need this thing to come together. The last thing you're thinking about is time for myself and self-care and things like that. How do you teach them this? How do you enforce it? Because I think it has to be enforced.
It has to be. Sometimes it really has to be enforced. For us, it's just showing them, the bigger picture. And firstly, giving them bits and pieces of this development. Because let's say, for example, they start on a program and we get them to do personal development assessments, right?
Okay.
For them to understand what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, what are my barriers. Just from that conversation, that very first conversation, they start seeing, oh, okay, I did not know that I actually don't like selling because I hate rejection.
Ah, okay.
So now it's like, okay, but knowing this can make me better. So it's those little things, those little development moments where they start realizing the importance of investing in themselves.
Yeah, and in any event, without them, there's no business.
Exactly.
So it's a critical thing, actually.
Exactly.
What's that third mistake that you've observed?
And the third mistake that I've observed is when a lot of businesses start, they focus a lot on the external things. So for me, the external stuff is, who are my competitors? What's happening in the market? Am I going to be good enough? You know, is my offering going to be good enough in comparison to what my competitors are offering? Instead of focusing on the internal aspects. The internal aspects being, do I really understand my business and how it works?
Yes.
Do I understand what I'm going to offer?
Yes.
Is there a market for it? Or am I creating enough value that's, you know, going to be appreciated by a market? Do I know the A to Z of how my business is going to run? You know, if somebody orders from me today, what needs to happen, by when, how, until it gets to a point where they deliver it.
What point would you say they should start worrying about their competitors?
I think once they've really bedded down what the business is, what it does, what value it creates, and they've actually tested that value by having some customers buy from them.
Yeah.
And once that's up and running, then they can start saying, okay, what's happening out there? What are my competitors doing? Because when you do it too early, then you create a product that is, okay, this competitor doesn't have this, let me offer that.
Yes, yeah.
And then
it's more a reaction to what your competitors are doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's actually a very valid point.
Yeah.
Okay, this is exciting. I think working with entrepreneurs is one of the most exciting things ever, because there's no day that is exactly the same, and no entrepreneur is the same. And I think that a lot of people like to think that, no, for you to be a successful entrepreneur, or even a struggling entrepreneur, because I think we are all struggling entrepreneurs, is you have to have one kind of personality. That an entrepreneur must have this, must have determination, perseverance, patience. But what you're saying is that these are things that can be learned as well.
Yeah.
Is this it?
Yeah.
Are you finding that there are people that you work with that start out as, you think, because I have a very simple proposition. You know when you're an entrepreneur or not.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm probably less patient than you. I'd be like, you are not an entrepreneur, go back to your job. Are you finding that you are actually able to take these entrepreneurs from that kind of, I'm not sure, I want to do it, but I'm not sure how, and get them to a place where they're actually confidently being entrepreneurs?
So one of the things that I will say is, you know, before you even consider any form of development or even plugging into an organization like ours, you must have made a decision of whether you actually want to do this.
Yes.
Whether you actually want to go into business and or sort of like overcome the stage of trying things out.
Oh, okay.
So we also say that you know, because the development process is an investment. It's an investment in your time as an entrepreneur. It's an investment in our time. It's, you know, it's so much of an investment. So by the time you get to that stage where you're like, okay, I'm going to build this business and I'm going to go through some form of development program to do that.
Yes.
You must have at least decided that actually this is what I'm going to do. I'm not looking back.
Yes.
I'm not going to change my mind after 3 months.
How do they join these programs? Let's say yours. Do they pay for the program? Or is this part of your partnership with corporates? Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So we have like two types of programs that we run. We have programs that are paid for through our partnerships with corporates.
Yes.
So what we do is we work with corporate companies to design and implement their enterprise and supply development programs.
Yes.
So a lot of corporates you know, some of them want to get involved in making a difference and also just impacting particularly Black-owned entrepreneurs. Some of them know that they have to do that as part of, you know, triple BE legislation.
Of course, yeah.
But they're not in the business of developing entrepreneurs. So they would partner with an organization like ours, and we would then implement that program on their behalf. So entrepreneurs can join our program through that mechanism.
Okay.
And that is a fully sponsored program. And then we also have, you know, programs that are available that entrepreneurs can pay for themselves.
Oh, I see.
And that doesn't get like a big take up.
Yeah.
Because a lot of entrepreneurs do not have
the accounting sense, yeah.
Right? And even the funds to commit to paying for such a development program.
Yeah.
So we've got like packages that could appeal to them, you know, just affordable packages that they can tap into, just so that they can start getting the appreciation of the difference that development can make in their business.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've got few startup packages.
Yes.
And then in 2020, we actually launched a program that is targeted at individuals that have either been retrenched or individuals that want to transition from corporate into full-time entrepreneurship. So it's called the Transitioning Entrepreneur Program.
Okay.
And it's really based on that. And we know not all individuals that have been retrenched will be absorbed back into the labor market. Some of them have skills. Some of them have talents that they can use. So we basically take them through the basics of starting a business.
Yes.
And also help them to conceptualize, whatever idea that they may have, so they can turn it into a business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there so can entrepreneurs, for example, who are part of the non-funded program, are you able as Transformation Legacy, are you able to refer them to corporates for some opportunities to join the ED programs or the SD programs?
Yes. So yes, absolutely.
You have that relationship.
We have that relationship.
Okay.
Even if they're on a non-funded program.
Yeah.
We want to, because the non-funded programs are usually very short, because we want to make them financially accessible to entrepreneurs. But our first goal is, how do we get them into the funded programs? Because they can then get development, a bit longer. So we always try to get them onto the enterprise and supply development program.
Because that access is the real privilege.
Oh, that access
because not everyone knows somebody in a corporate that can get their company onto these programs.
Exactly.
Do you hold these corporates accountable? Because you know what happens, right? It's just sometimes a tick box exercise. They just want to get as many Black-owned businesses onto their program just so that they tick a box and get the BEE points, which I always find incredibly infuriating and downright disrespectful, to be honest, to the entrepreneurs. But entrepreneurs, find themselves being desperate at some point, and they'll just take whatever comes their way. So what should part of your programs, is it to also monitor that these corporates are actually doing right by these entrepreneurs? And what should, it's a two-part question, what should the entrepreneurs themselves be saying to these corporates when they are part of these programs? Because I think I asked the question because they think these corporates are doing them a favor. But it's not really a favor, it's a trade. Because corporates are going to get something big out of it, and so will the entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So for us, we've been very intentional about having these conversations way upfront.
Okay, good.
Way upfront, because there's two things. There's the whole allowing for access to markets. And secondly, there's also, why are we doing this? And can we do this so that at the end of the day, the entrepreneurs are sustainable and they're in a position where they are competitive? So those are the conversations that we have way upfront, and it becomes sort of part of our outline of what the program would look like.
Yes.
If one of the things is, okay, we must create access to market opportunities through the program, it's things that we must monitor on a quarterly basis.
Yes.
And be accountable. So not just the corporate, even us, in terms of identifying any access to market opportunities that the SMEs can access. So for us, it's going back into monitoring, is this really happening? And
are you adding the value?
And are we adding value? So for us, it's very important for us to add value because we stand for impact.
Yes.
So is our program actually having impact in the entrepreneurs' businesses? And the impact is ultimately, is their income increasing?
Yes.
Is their profit increasing?
Yes.
Are we seeing a change in development in their structure in terms of their operations? And are we seeing change in terms of them building teams now that they've gone through the program?
Yes.
So those would be the things that we then monitor. And we monitor collectively with our corporate partners. So we like to work with corporates where we can have some form of partnership so that we can collaborate together in developing the SMEs.
Yeah. So it's when purpose is crossed.
Right?
When purpose is crossed.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you just one last question, and then we can wrap up our conversation. What is the one advice you would give it's actually also a two-pronged question. What's the one advice you would give to entrepreneurs, particularly those who are in that phase of, I have tried this thing. So they're not unsure, they've been doing it, and they're now maybe just despondent because things are not coming together. So what would be advice for them? And then the last question to you would be, where's the future going? Where are you looking to go with yourself as an entrepreneur, most importantly, but also with transformation legacy? Okay. So advice to entrepreneurs first.
And advice to entrepreneurs, I think when you're at a point where you're like, okay, something is not working, I've been doing the same thing, I've given it my best, and things seem to not be moving. I would say take a step back and assess your business holistically. And the best way to do that is do it with a business mentor or coach. Do it with a business consultant. Do it with an expert, so that they can then do a diagnosis and say, okay, this is the status of the business.
Yeah, show you what you're not seeing.
Exactly, what you're not seeing. Because sometimes there's things that you're not seeing. You may be doing the same thing over and over, but you're not seeing progress because there's something that you're missing. So it's important to do a diagnosis just to understand what is really happening in my business. Why are things not moving? And also talk to your stakeholders, talk to your customers, say how are you experiencing
Get feedback.
Get feedback, have frank conversations with your customers, have frank conversations with your staff. If you're at a stage where you're employing people, have frank conversations with your suppliers, just to get to understand what is really happening in your business. And that diagnosis will really highlight what are the areas of development, what are the gaps in my business, what are the opportunities that I did not even see that I can access in future. And only then can you make a decision. Okay, do I move forward? And if I do, how do I move forward? But you cannot move forward without information and without understanding what the true status of your business is.
That's very helpful, because entrepreneurs do get very they take failure personally. And things that are not going well, it's because of me. I'm the problem. Something's wrong. I don't know what to do. And I always say that, you have to distance yourself from a business. That's why I completely do not agree with people saying a business is my baby. No, it's not your baby. It's a business. Okay. At some point, you're going to have to exit it. You're going to have to sell it. Okay. Even your babies, they're going to have to leave at some point. Okay. So it's, I think what you're saying and that feedback, either from a coach, a mentor, a consultant, or your customers, allows you the opportunity to actually receive objective feedback and to, hopefully take that to account before you make a drastic decision that says, I'm done, or I have failed at this. Whereas actually you could just, you just need that one opportunity to try again. And where are you off to now? What's happening with you as an entrepreneur? You are settled in now, 6 years in, and how does it feel?
6 years in, settled. I am looking forward to growing the business and making sure we've got more impact on entrepreneurs. But other things that we want to do, we want to establish an academy. Really taking, students from matric through, entrepreneurship development, where they learn about entrepreneurship, about business management. But they can do it in a practical way. And by the time they graduate, they actually have a business. I think we speak a lot about entrepreneurship in our country, but we don't really harness it or groom it from a young age. So, people study all sorts of, qualifications and, work in all sorts of industries. But, some of them already know, I want to be an entrepreneur one day.
Yes.
So why go through all of that where you can actually go through an academy which teaches you about entrepreneurship?
Yes, early on. Yeah.
Very early on.
Yeah.
About self-leadership and development, about, really, really business management, so that by the time you graduate, you know how to run a business.
Yes, yes.
So that's what we want to do.
That's exciting.
Yes, yes.
I might just be a lecturer if you invite me.
Oh, I would like to have you as a lecturer.
I think I just committed to something I wasn't asked for.
I'm going to hold you to it.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Busi. It's really, I always enjoy chatting to you. I am just so, I feel highly enthusiastic when I'm around people who want to have an impact, who want to help others, but without ignoring their own vision and their own dreams. So your business is incredibly special because it's not just about you as an entrepreneur running your business, the business of transformation legacy. It's also the business of other entrepreneurs. And it's this very special ecosystem, right? And I guess you feel at your best when you are continuously seeing these entrepreneurs graduate out of these programs and really become standalone businesses that are thriving and creating jobs. I identify with that. I appreciate your time. Hey, thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. Well, that was another amazing episode of Vastly Sage as I chat to Busi Raphekwane, who's the CEO and founder of Transformation Legacy. Entrepreneurs, you heard this. Get yourself on a development program. And I don't even think you have to get to a point where you're struggling. Just get yourself on one anyway so that you can learn the basics of running a business and actually not lose sight of those basics, because entrepreneurs can also get so caught up in the creative, in the juicy parts of the business and ignore the guts, which is really the business of the business. And Busi said it, wellness and self-care is such an important thing for entrepreneurs, because without you, your business will not survive. So it is fundamentally critical that you look after yourself. And remember that there's always hope. Speak to somebody if you need help. Well, until next time, I hope you were helped by this episode. Cheers for now.